My guest today is English singer, songwriter, musician, radio presenter, actor, and music promoter Tony Moore, a former member of Iron Maiden in the 70s and the Cutting Crew in the 80s. In 1997, Tony founded the Kashmir Club to showcase live music in London, giving stage time to early performers such as Paolo Nutini and Damien Rice. In 2000, the Sunday Times described the club as the coolest club in town. Tony went on to manage the Bedford for the last 17 years and was an early adopter of using the internet. This is the Art and Spirituality Show.
Online, on the iOS and Android, on your mobile phones. Great speakers conversation around the globe. This is Relaks Radio.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
Relax Radio. The Art and Spirituality Show. I'm Dominic Anglim, and welcome to the Art and Spirituality Show. Of course, we're joined today via phone by a very special guest, Mr. Tony Moore. Tony, you're on air with us.
Oh, it's good to be with you, Dominic. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Well, Tony,
it's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
well, Tony, of course, you've I gave you a brief summary of your life there in the introduction, but wow.
Yes, my life flashed in front of my eyes as you were saying it.
quite a interesting life you've had. You were born in Bristol in the 50s, I believe.
Well, yeah, I like to call it nearly the 60s.
What was it like growing up there in the 50s stroke nearly the 60s in Bristol?
Well, I was born in 58, so I don't really remember what the 50s were like.
Yeah.
The early 60s, Bristol was and still is a very beautiful town. I remember it as had a very happy childhood. And I look back at pictures and I realized things like the entire street had no cars parked in it, for example.
Wow.
And it was a very it's a city built on many hills, and as a young person on a bicycle, it was great going downhill, but you always had to go uphill to get back somewhere.
Yeah. And did you are you from a big family or a small family?
No, it's just me. It's quite a small family. I was an only child, and my dad was a classical pianist and tenor. My mum was a ballet dancer and choreographer when they met.
Wow.
And they fell in love and they got married and kind of decided, I guess, to be a family rather than two people following their careers. So
yeah,
my father moved into being a traveling salesman, and my mum did work from home. Actually, she was quite progressive in this day and age. So she was a housewife before she had me, and then she was a housewife and mother. But she used to clip poodles. So poodles, when they've had like a really they've been to the poodle beauty parlor.
Yeah,
they've got little pom poms on their tails and all that. She used to do that from home.
Wow.
She had a room to do that in. So she was always very practical about contributing to the income of the family and stuff. And I grew up as an only child, but very supported and loved. The basis of everything in my life I put down really to my childhood being one where I was encouraged to do what my heart and my passion drove me to do, and to be supported in everything and to be encouraged. So I was given the belief that I could do anything, which I think is an amazing gift to be able to give a child,
Big time.
not to limit their horizons. And it's not really about being impractical, because obviously as a child you're limited in what you can do, but you're not limited in what you believe you can do. And to encourage that belief, not only in children, in everyone, for me is a very important thing. And as I live my life, I realize more and more how important that foundation was for me.
Definitely. I mean, there must have been such a positive influence on your artistic endeavors.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just from listening to my dad playing and not being able to emulate him, and I'll never be able to emulate him because he was quite a phenomenal classical pianist. But so I ended up doing something completely different, and something that he didn't do. So he didn't compose or write his own music or his own songs. He always had to have the sheet music.
Yeah.
Even if he played a piece for 50 years, he'd still want the sheet music in front of him. I can't read music. I don't have that classical either discipline or mindset.
Yeah.
So I, at a very young age, chose to write my own music. Partly, I think, because nobody could say I was wrong. So instead of trying to learn a piece of music from the sheet music that I could hardly read and it was really frustrating, I just made something up instead. And then I found that much more satisfying.
So did you have any formal training in keyboards then, or was it just something that you just started playing yourself?
A little bit. I went to piano lessons for I don't know, a year or two, but I just didn't enjoy it really. I didn't enjoy what I was doing, and like I said, the discipline and structure then was not the thing that inspired me. I didn't have that was not my aptitude to be a sight reading classical musician. And I have enormous respect for those who do, because to me it's like magic, right? I can pick notes out very slowly from a piece of music.
Yeah.
I can read chords and I understand what I'm playing to some degree. And I know pretty much most of the chords that I'm meant to be playing. But the rest is always instinctive and muscle memory, and you're just using my ear, really.
Yeah.
That trained me to listen a lot more to music and try and work out what was happening, and how to replicate that.
And of course, you joined up with your first band. I remember you were saying the other day that you were touring with a band and you were playing in a band as young as being a teenager. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, in fact, I'd already had quite an active career through most of my teenage years. So I formed a band at school, and we went through different variations as you often do. And I went to Bristol Grammar School, which academically I didn't do very well at all. I think I passed my English literature and English language O levels, and that was about it. I think I dropped out of most other things at that point. But we had a great music room. And on Saturday afternoons, the music teacher would let us rehearse the band sometimes in there. And that was just really exciting, just to be making music. And then when I was a little bit older, we started doing lots of gigs and playing in lots of pubs. We were underage, right? We weren't really allowed to be in the pub.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It was a different age then. Things were much more relaxed. We weren't drinking or anything. We were just playing music.
Yeah.
And I did lots and lots of little pub gigs, playing all the covers. Bizarrely enough, many of the same songs that I'm still playing now.
Yeah.
When you go back to the classics of, the Beatles and the Stones and, kind of early rock and roll and Chuck Berry. I mean, that music is timeless. So I was already doing a lot of gigs, and when I was about 16, I used to rent, every now and then we'd need a bigger PA system. So I'd rent these speakers for £5 a night from this guy that had a PA system.
Yeah.
And he managed a band, and this band had got the gig to be the British band for an American soul singer called Al Matthews.
Okay.
Some people, if they're film buffs, might remember Al Matthews from the second Alien movie, which was called Aliens.
Yeah.
And he's the drill sergeant. So when the Marines land on the planet, he's the guy with the cigar and just shouting at the Marines, "You get out there and you're going to get those aliens," you know.
Yeah, yeah.
He made a few movies. Big voice, and basically the band didn't have a keyboard player and they needed one. And this guy that rented me the PA knew that I played keyboards, and he said, "Did I want to do a tour with the band?" He didn't know how old I was, and he didn't ask, and I didn't tell him. And so for about 3 months, it wasn't continuous, but we were doing like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights every week, and touring around the country. And I learned so much from that experience. It was just the most incredible thing. And the band were all big fans of Steely Dan. They were all like super talented musos, right? So they loved their music.
Yeah.
And just playing in this band was, I didn't get paid, right? I didn't realize you could get paid as well. We got to stay in hotels and sign autographs and play sold out gigs. He just had a hit single.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could get paid for that as well. Nobody told me, and I never asked.
Oh my God. That's so funny. That's so funny. You mentioned earlier that you can listen to music and you can pick out individual notes, and you were mentioning that, and there's a certain magic for people who can read music like that. I know that you did take an early drama class when you were a teenager, and I'm wondering now, did that then lead you into, because you were a magician in another life as well, weren't you?
No. Okay, so when I was about 8 or 9, my mum had signed me up for Saturday morning drama classes.
Okay.
And elocution classes.
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't speak with the full accent of where I grew up, although people who listen hard can hear it in my R's. There's a little bit of Bristol comes through every now and then.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was part of the elocution lessons, and we I'd be in bit parts in little plays, and I enjoyed it. When I was 12, I'd started playing the piano at this point and writing little bits of classical music and doing my own thing. But I went to these kind of ideal homes exhibitions that used to have in big exhibition halls in Olympia and Earl's Court, where
I do, yeah.
You'd go there and there were all these things for the home, right? You'd see futuristic homes, but also you would see people selling stuff. The guys selling the knives that never need sharpening, and the ballpoint pens that write upside down, and all these kind of all the kind of things now that you would find online or will pop up in your Facebook stream as a crowd-funded new gimmick, right?
Right.
And so I went to one of these in Bristol because my dad's company was selling, I think, kitchen doors. I think they were kind of like nicely designed doors and swing doors and stuff for kitchens and basements. So they had a stand there, and he was there, and I went to visit him one day, and I was walking around and I saw a magician. And he had a little stand, and he was selling trick packs of cards and demonstrating magic. And I was absolutely fascinated with this. And for some reason, a couple of months before, I just learned how to flick the cards from one hand to the other. That's not quite the right term. It's like a waterfall. Okay. If you see magicians, they do it all the time. Yeah. They have a pack of cards and they lift their hands up, almost like an accordion. Yeah, and the cards go from one hand to the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I kind of learned how to do that, just not because I wanted to be a magician, but I just had a pack of cards and tried it and practiced. I went, I can do that. So I saw this magician, and in the break, he would mess around with the cards, and he'd do that. And I went up to him and I said, I can do that in a very precocious way. And he said to me, okay, go on, then show me. So I did. And he went, oh, you can do that? I said, yes. And then I went there every day and hung out talking to this magician and watching him. Excuse me. And so after a couple of days, he was kind of talking to me. He was very kind to me, and he was very generous with his time, even though he was obviously trying to sell trick packs of cards.
Yeah.
So every now and then he would say, "You can sit on the stand whilst I go and have a cup of tea," right?
Yeah.
Which for him was great. He could wander off and leave everything set up. I'd be sitting and people would come up to me and they say, "Oh, you're the magician. Show us something magic." So I would just, flick the cards from one hand to the other, and they go, "Oh, that's good. Show us something else." And I didn't have anything else. But by the end of the week, we'd become friends, and he showed me some tricks, and he told me some books I ought to get.
Yeah.
Which I did. And then I started practicing, and then he came back a year later, and I went back and saw him. And this time, he let me work for him, demonstrating some of the magic tricks, and he gave me a little bit of pocket money for doing it.
Wow.
And then he was based in Blackpool, and then so that was 12, 13. When I was about 15, I went to Blackpool for a long weekend. My parents drove me up. We went up, and he taught me a lot more, and I worked for him that weekend on Central Pier, demonstrating these magic tricks. And then the next year, I went back again, and when I was 16, 17, I did a summer season up there. I did 2 months up there.
Oh, nice.
And I earned a lot of money selling packs of cards. And I learned something that's been very important in my life out of that. I learned how to stop strangers who weren't interested in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I learned how to entertain them. And then I learned how to make them buy something they didn't want, didn't need, and would never use again, and were very happy to do it.
Wow, that's a
once they
bit of a life lesson there.
Well, it is. Once they bought the trick pack of cards, they couldn't be bothered to learn how to use it properly, because it takes a bit of time, right?
Yeah,
like anything.
Yeah.
So they give it a go a few times, and they get bored. They go, "Oh, it was only 50p or whatever it was."
Yeah.
But being paid only on commission on the amount of packs of cards I sold, it was really important that you sell some packs of cards, right? So this kind of gave me an instinctive insight into a lot of psychology of how I interacted with people, and how people would respond to different things and different approaches.
Yeah.
So I did all of that, and I still do magic now, but I kind of gave it up by the time I was about 18, after having gone to Canada for 2 months and worked in Toronto in the Christmas period and made quite a lot of money.
Wow.
I bought loads of when I came back, I bought keyboards and amps and gear, and decided I really wanted to be in a band and making music more than being a magician.
I like that. I feel like magic kind of aided you into pursuing your music, pursuing your musical passions.
I think it did on a couple of levels. One, it gave me the funds to be able to buy the equipment I needed.
Yeah.
Secondly, it taught me something about being very self-sufficient. Here I was, 16, 17 years old, going away on my own for a couple of months and working in the summer holidays. Yeah. And being completely in charge of my own life. I didn't have anyone there. I didn't have minders or anyone there with me. I was earning my own money, paying rent. Yeah. I mean, the first year I spent a summer season, I was getting bed, breakfast, and evening meal for £9 a week. Wow. Right? And second year it went up to £12 a week. I went, "Oh, this is a bit of a rip-off."
Listen, we're going to take a short break. We're talking to Tony Moore here. And if you want to give a call in, or if you want to give a message in and ask Tony any questions, you can call us on 075 824 73473, or you can send us a text message if you like. It's 075 824 73473. And we'll be right back after this short break for more art and spirituality from Mr. Tony Moore. Please join us then.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
आपने
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292 আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay. Relax Radio.
We're back. The Art and Spirituality Show with myself, Dominic Anglim, and I'm joined by the phone today by my special guest, Mr. Tony Moore. Tony, you're back on air with us.
It's good to be here.
Thanks a million for joining us, Tony. Yeah, so you had quite an eventful kind of childhood in terms of your teenage years. You were very active on the music scene. You were very active as a performer, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, interestingly enough, when I was got my first passport, in the old days, because I'm old enough to be able to say in the old days, I guess, the passports used to require you to designate your occupation. So not only did it have your name and the fact that you were a British citizen and your date of birth and all that kind of stuff, you had to put your occupation as well. And I presume in the old, back in the day, people had one occupation pretty much for life once you'd chosen your occupation.
Yeah.
Things are a little different now. But my occupation was entertainer. That's what I put on my passport, because that's really not it's what I saw myself as, but it's what I was. And I've had a couple of what people might term proper jobs in between. Not many. I worked in camera store called Greens, which was a concession inside Debenhams in Bristol for a few months.
Yeah.
In 1977, and which was good fun. And then when I moved to London, I was able to rearrange an internal transfer so that I could work for the Greens in Debenhams in London and kind of be able to arrive in London and still be able to have a little bit of income.
Nice.
So, and then once I left that, I never had another job again. Everything was always something to do with music or acting or magic or something in the world of entertainment, of interaction with people and just doing things that are fun and inspirational. We've talked before about things in life, and one of the things I find really important is that sense of unlocking the potential in everybody by my actions, creating light and positive energy and really spreading love, right? It's without it sounding too hippy dippy and 60 San Francisco, but to do things that make people feel love and feel loved, and for them to express love, I think is vital. And we are in a world where there's always been a little bit of a battle going on between the dark and the light, both inside ourselves and within the greater world.
Definitely.
I think we're in very dark times at the moment, and I think the more light and the more love and the more positive energy and the more truth that we can bring to the world, the more powerful we can have effects on those who are suffering from the darkness.
Definitely, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I think it's so important, even if it is only a small ripple in the beginning that we put out into this ocean of this world that we're
Yeah.
living in. That ripple, it can get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it can become a wave, and then eventually it can become an ocean.
Yeah.
With people collaborating, I think, and supporting each other and practicing love and practicing compassion and kindness. I think we can change the world.
The thing is, none of us ever understand the impact of our actions till sometimes we are blessed later on to hear stories of something that we once did or once said, and how that positive action created a moment for somebody else to then do something that changed their lives.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
and when you hear that back, you realize the power that each one of us have, that most of the time we are completely unaware of. And of course, there's a negative to that, which is that if we are hurtful and hateful or aggressive or mean spirited, that also has an effect on those around us and can lead to negativity, something negative in their world. So I think it's always critical to try and just be as illuminative as possible. I think that's a word I've just made up. Illuminative.
Illuminative. We'll go with it. We'll
Yeah.
go with it. I mean,
Yes.
I think. I mean, I want to mention Iron Maiden because from what I read online was that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I read online, it said that you were in the group, and then it was you that didn't feel that the keyboard was quite right for the Iron Maiden sound, the early Iron Maiden sound, and so you decided to leave the band. And I think that was quite a selfless act on your part.
Not really. Only because I mean, let's pedal backwards a little bit to the point that I joined the band.
Yeah.
This was 1977, and this was me deciding I've made some money through magic. I bought some equipment, and I'm ambitious, and I realized that the music industry, by and large, exists in London at its heart, and the same in every country. If you're in America, you need to be in LA or Nashville or New York. You have to be in one of the centers of industry where everyone is based in order to kind of advance your career. So I looked in a music magazine called the Melody Maker, which was a bit like the internet in a print form, because in one paper you could get news about the music business, you could see stories and articles. Then there was also an advert section where you could buy equipment, sell equipment, find people who are looking to join a band, advertise yourself to join a band, all these kinds of things. And I saw a big advert, and it said, Iron Maiden. It's all online. All of the great thing about the internet is everything that I remember, has been discovered by some fan and put online somewhere. So I think it said Iron Maiden seeks drummer and keyboard synth player, no idiots. And but it was a big advert, right? And I thought, I've got a keyboard, I've got a synth, and I'm not an idiot. I could answer this, so I did. And I drove to London for the audition.
Yeah.
And the audition was exciting because I'd never been in a London rehearsal room before. It was very loud. And at the end of it, the band went off and came back 10 minutes later, and they said, "You're in." And so I went, "Great." That was why I moved to London, and that's why I managed to move my job to Debenhams. But Iron Maiden was not a famous band at this point. Iron Maiden was it was very early in their career, and they'd been going through various lineups for a year or so at that point, maybe a couple of years. And I stayed with the band. Um, I can't remember exactly how long, probably maybe 4, 5, 6 months. And it was great, right? Steve Harris, who is the driving force of Iron Maiden, always had a very, very strong vision of what he believed the band could do. And although he didn't say it all in one go, basically what we used to talk about, because when I first moved to London, I stayed with him for a little while at he was living at his grandma's house.
Yeah.
And we get together and talk about how the band was going to be the cutting edge of new British rock music, that we'd have a show as big as Genesis, and we'd be one of the most famous bands in the world.
Yeah.
And everything he said came true, right? His vision was incredibly focused, and that's partly what really inspired me to be a part of the band, was that strength of conviction. And although the music was really very guitar based, I did my bit, and we rehearsed, and we eventually did one very important gig where lots of people came to see us. Quite a famous gig now, that it was at a place called the Bridge House in Canning Town. But for me, the gig didn't go as well as I wanted it to go as a band.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And afterwards, there was something that just felt that I wasn't the right person in this band. And it was a difficult decision, right? Because I liked everyone, and it wasn't that we'd had an argument and we fell out or anything like that.
Yeah.
It just felt like it wasn't my thing, right? And so I answered another advert in the Melody Maker and went for an audition and joined a band with Brian James, who'd been the original guitarist in The Damned.
Yeah.
And he'd written two of the biggest punk anthems, Neat, Neat, Neat and New Rose in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he formed this new band. And so I went for an audition for that band, and they offered me the gig. So I thought, okay, I think this is a better step for me.
Yeah.
So I regretfully had to let the band and Iron Maiden know that I was leaving. And it was still all very amicable. It wasn't like we fell out. It was, we just got getting on with our things. However, in the meantime, behind the scenes, over the next year or so with Iron Maiden, there were more changes, and a different singer came in, a different drummer, and another guitarist. And then that lineup was the one that got the record deal. Still playing pretty much the same songs that I'd been playing. And that first album is pretty much all the songs that I've been working on. We did at the gig. So it wasn't really a selfless thing to walk away from the band, because they weren't successful.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I thought that they weren't going to be successful necessarily. I really believed in Steve's passion and dream. It just felt like not the thing for me to be doing at that time. After that gig, it didn't seem to gel. So that's why I left.
That's fair enough. And I think you got to follow your heart. You have to follow your heart.
Yeah. And I don't regret it, only because I've had the most amazing life. I've done fantastic. I've experienced some of the most amazing things that I wouldn't have experienced if I'd stayed with Iron Maiden. On the other hand, I would have experienced many amazing things with Iron Maiden that I wouldn't have done if I'd left, if you know what I mean. So part of my philosophy, and this is really core and critical to my whole being, is that I live in the moment.
Yes.
And this is something that I realize many people are unable to do very easily, and also something that I've always done and never realized I did it until I've looked back at my life and thought about the way that I interacted with the world, and realized that I didn't ever look backwards, and I didn't put all of my hope in the future.
Yeah.
I aimed myself in a direction, but then I lived in every moment. I tried to squeeze the most out of every single moment. And that allowed me to follow a journey that no matter what I do, I would find wonderful things in it. So there's nothing to regret in life, because I've had an amazing life so far. And I think I've got lots more yet to come.
I think you do. And we're going to take a short break, folks. We'll be right back after this break to find out more about Tony Moore and what he's been up to recently. We want to find out what's going on in the present moment on that note. We'll be right back after this short break. Please join us then for more art and spirituality and more from Mr. Tony Moore.
Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay. Relax Radio.
We're back. The Art and Spirituality Show, and my name is Dominic Anglim, and I'm joined for my very special guest today by Mr. Tony Moore. Tony, you're back on air with us.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Thanks so much for joining us. Such an interesting conversation we were having before the break there about living in the moment and how you've spent your life living every moment to the max. So yeah, I commend you on that. I commend you on that that lifestyle and that way of thinking.
Well, it's not something that I chose. It's something that chose me.
Yeah.
So, like I say, as I look back on it, I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just doing what felt. Well, I was just being me, right?
Yeah.
But as I look at it, I understand that being me was embracing the moment, not worrying about the past, and not being concerned about the future. And that's not to be flippant about the importance of understanding where we're going in life and just, being lost at sea.
Yeah.
It's really about understanding that the past has been and gone. It's like a country we no longer have a visa to visit anymore. And whether it was a good past or a bad past, it is a past, right? So although it's nice to think back and remember some of the lovely things, none of the negative things that happened or the difficult things or the challenging things do I ever go back to, because if I revisit that negativity, then it affects me again.
Yeah.
And I have even less control over it now because it's already gone.
Exactly.
So why would I want to bring required negativity back into my life from something that's already gone? That seems to me illogical. So I don't really worry about the past. And I know that's easy to say, and I truly understand that for many people, it's difficult to let go of things that have happened in their lives that have hurt them and have been negative to them. And part of the other side of that coin is the concept of forgiveness. I'm a great believer in forgiveness because I think, again, often forgiveness is seen as a way of letting somebody else off the hook for something that they did that was wrong or hurtful.
Yeah.
But I don't see it like that at all. I see it as a very selfish thing to do. In order to let go of that anger or of that pain or of that frustration, if you forgive, then you let go. Doesn't mean you have to welcome that energy back into your life, or that you have to qualify that energy was correct or that you were wrong or anything like that. It's just a way of you letting go of it, so you never have to think about it again.
Yeah, nice.
Or allow it to be negative. So that's the kind of the flip side of the living in the moment coin, right?
Yeah.
I just want each of my moments to be fantastic. So right now we're having a great chat. I'm thrilled and honored and delighted that you invited me to be a part of your show. And I appreciate the fact that I'm still breathing, moving, making music, doing the things that I love in life, and embracing this, because it doesn't last forever. And the next stage of the journey, nobody knows, right?
Exactly.
Many people can surmise. Many people might have, near-death experience stories. But truthfully, nobody really knows what happens on the next part of the journey. So this journey is the only thing that we can really experience. So we might as well dive deep and enjoy and make the best of every part of it, and just realize that negativity and darkness is part of the life that we live, and we have to work out how to put it to one side, to power through it, to turn the light on. And here's the for me, this is always a beautiful analogy in my head. If you have a room, two rooms next to each other, like hotels have the suites with a connecting door, right?
Yeah.
If one room is completely black and pitch dark and there's no light in it at all, and the other room is full of light, and you open the connecting door, the light comes into the dark and illuminates. The darkness doesn't come into the light, right?
Exactly.
And the power of light to illuminate even the darkest places, when it's focused and it's comes from the heart, is such a powerful thing.
I'm curious now, because I want to ask you about a project that you were working on yourself during lockdown, which is a film that you that you wrote, that you produced, that you directed, that you wrote the music for. And yeah, I want to ask you about that. And I'm just curious now, what you were talking about before, was that perhaps a little bit of an inspiration for this film? The film is called The Voodoo Vortex. The Voodoo Vortex. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So basically, the film came about because of an extension of what I was doing with my live stream. So on the day that we locked down properly, which was after the weekend of lockdown, March the 24th, I started streaming a live show. And I had quite a lot of equipment, and because I've always been, as you said at the very top of the show, embraced the new technology of the internet, and I've been streaming live shows in one way or another since 1998.
Wow.
So I have quite an understanding of the technology, and I also realized that I have enough equipment and enough space and an understanding. I can make my shows look and sound very professional, not a million miles away from what you'd see on television.
Yeah.
Sonically and visually. And each day that I did the show, and I did it every single night for 103 nights, each day that I did a show, I'd think a little bit more about how I could make the look of it more surreal and weird and fun.
Yeah.
And so I started developing these techniques of taking photographs and in Photoshop cutting them up into sections to create different layers to use a sense of depth. So I'm using green screen technology when I'm streaming, but I'm able to put myself, even though I'm in the shed in my mum's garden surrounded by 6 keyboards and lights and cables and mic sounds, I'm able to disguise all of that and make it look like I'm in a kitchen or I'm in a library or I'm outside, right? I can make it look like I'm anywhere.
Yeah.
And some of that technology is just putting a different background with green screen, which is what we see in the news all the time, right?
Exactly.
Nearly all news programs are kind of digital studios. But I'm adding different elements into it, like other moving animals and just for fun. And I realized that I'm creating something very visual that nobody else is doing, really, because it takes quite a lot of work to prepare each scene. And then I realized that I could actually try and make a movie like this. And the thing is, I have, in the middle of lockdown, I have no one to act with.
Yeah.
I have no location that I can go and film at.
Yeah.
I have no crew that I can work with. I have to do everything on my own, basically in the shed. So I realized with a little bit of experimenting that if I created a film that looked like a comic strip, black and white and very stylized, and I used photographs as the sets, and I used this green screen technology that I'd been working on, I could insert myself into different scenes. And because it looks like a cartoon, it's very forgiving. Nobody would go, oh, he's not really there, or that looks like it's bad green. It just becomes its own thing. It's very forgiving.
That's cool. That's cool.
So I decided.
Sorry, go on.
So I decided to do like a test of the opening of a detective thing, and I had this long coat, brown leather coat that I've had for years, and I loved it. I bought it in a second-hand shop, and I always thought if I got the chance to play a detective on telly or in the films, I'd want to use my coat. It's a bit like the Columbo coat. It's a thing, right? It has its own character. So I had this coat. I had this name in my head, the Voodoo Vortex. I didn't know what it was going to be. And I just made up a scene with a voice. And I realized that narration was going to be the key to this, because I could describe what was happening as the narrator without actually having to show you anything. So this allowed me to tell a story without anyone else. So basically, I ended up making a 42-minute feature-length short film. It's not feature-length, but it's a short film that's a feature.
Yeah.
And I think with a fairly compelling story, and the few people that have seen the trailers and the kind of the teasers have been very impressed with it, because it's come out of challenge. Everything that everybody else could normally do in film, I couldn't do. So I had to work out, how can I make a film when I don't have any of those advantages? What do I have left?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I haven't seen the film yet now, but I did watch the trailer when we spoke last week, and it looks really good. You know, it's a really interesting style, and as you say, it's something which hasn't really been done before. So I think that's going to pique a lot of interest when you do release it. You know, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, Dominic. Yeah, that was and that was kind of just living in the moment. That was allowing the universe to guide my heart and inspiration to finish a project, really, that I would never have thought of doing if there hadn't been a lockdown. And that's another part of my philosophy in life, which I touched on for a second. In every challenge, there's always opportunity. And sometimes the darker, the tougher, and the harder the challenge, the deeper you have to dig to find that opportunity. But the more successful, or the more empowering that opportunity can be.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look through the history of the development of our technological age, many of the things that we have today that we take for granted in our lives were invented by somebody trying to invent something else and not being able to do it, or because they faced a challenge in their life and they needed a solution. And had they not had the challenge, they would never have come up with a solution.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I actually think that this year of 2020, it actually has it's inspired a lot of people to try different things, and the whole arts industry has gone online essentially because of the times that we're in. And as you say, if we hadn't have found ourselves in these in this situation, then you wouldn't have made that film, and I'm sure plenty of other people wouldn't have created what they created this year. So
Exactly.
It's a really interesting time. We're going to take another short break. We're quickly running out of time here, and I want to ask you about the Bedford. I want to ask you a little bit about the Kashmir Club, and I also want to ask you about a film that's coming out today. It's actually out today on Amazon and Apple Music that you star in, and I have a role in it as well. But we want to talk a little bit about that after the break. Please join us after the break, and we'll be right back for more art and spirituality with Tony Moore.
Relax Radio. Whoa, Relax Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, yeah, 24 hours. And let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
The Art and Spirituality Show. We're back. I'm Dominic Anglim, and I'm joined via phone today by my guest, Mr. Tony Moore. Tony, you're back on air with us.
Still with you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. I'm just curious now because I know that we're staying in the present moment, of course. We're definitely staying in the present moment, but I also want to ask you a little bit about your musical projects of late, going towards the Bedford, and of course you founded the Kashmir Club in the 90s as well, giving stage time to a lot of artists which are now famous and things like that. So I'm curious,
Right.
what was the transition from kind of doing your own music to kind of promoting other people and giving other people a stage?
What happened essentially was that in the late kind of mid 90s, I realized. I mean, as I said, I've never really had much of a proper job. I've always made my money from my income from music or entertainment in one way or another. So, in between bands where I was being part of very successful projects, obviously, like everybody, I have long periods of not being part of successful projects,
Sure.
and you still have to earn an income. So I've been a kind of a piano bar piano player, hotel bar piano player did that for many years. And in the mid 90s, I realized that I could play you almost any Elton John song or Billy Joel song or Beatles song or
Yeah.
Paul Simon song. Just sit down with the piano and just play it for you, because that's what I'd been doing for years. But I couldn't easily play any of my own songs because I didn't often play them, because
Right.
there wasn't a place for me to go and play my own songs.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the 90s, in the UK, everybody was very much in the middle of the Britpop and the indie baggy Brit rock stuff. So everybody who was booking gigs wanted bands like the Stone Roses or Oasis, or the Charlatans or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nobody was really promoting original singer-songwriters. Apart from two girls that had an event which was actually called the Original Songwriters, that used to take place once a week. But that was with a house band, and you would give them the music, and they would learn your song, and they were doing a great thing. But I wanted to do something a bit more stripped back and acoustic. I just wanted a place where I could go and play my own songs to people that came to hear original material. And so I found this venue that I'd been doing some other gigs in that were quiet during the week. And I suggested that on a Tuesday night, I would come in and I would call it the Kashmir Club, because I love Kashmir, the track by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And I chose Club with a K because when the guy who invented Kodak made that word up, he was saying there was a great power in the two letters of K in Kodak, and it was a very powerful looking and sounding word. And I thought, well, Kashmir Club, I will use 2 Ks, one for each word.
Nice.
And it was really an experiment for me and my friends who were also acoustic singer-songwriters to have a place to play. And the first night we did it, it was packed. So we did it the next week, it was packed again. So after a month or two, I found that there was hundreds of singer-songwriters just waiting to find somewhere to play, and an audience of people hungry to take it on board. So after a few months, we eventually had to move to another location in Marylebone where it became the permanent home. And then for 6 years, we eventually went from 1 night a week to 2 to 3 to 4 to 6 nights a week.
Wow.
And that's where we had, like I say, like you mentioned, Damien Rice did his first London shows with me, and places where Imogen Heap would come and play. But also, Sheryl Crow came and played there, and Dave Stewart came and played. Members of Fleetwood Mac would turn up and play. It was a very cool place. That closed after 6 years because the building got repossessed.
Right.
And the guy that owned the Bedford in Balham had been to my shows and knew what I did. And he sent me a message one day and he just said, listen, I know that the Kashmir is closed. I'm really sorry. But would you like to come to the Bedford and help us get our music up to speed? So I went there ostensibly for 6 months to get the music working really well, because it's the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
It's just that it wasn't really known as a music venue as it should have been. And that was 17 years ago. I've been there 17 years. And
wow.
The reason that I do what I do is because I am a talent junkie.
Yeah.
I absolutely love people who are great at what they do. Doesn't matter, to be honest, it doesn't matter what they do. I'm a talent junkie for great scientists, great mathematicians, great, mountaineers, but particularly great musicians and singers and songwriters. And I always am very grateful for all the people that helped me in my career. And so I just wanted to create a place that encouraged young, emerging artists to have, to be their best, really, and to create a space that had a reputation for original music and that had a great sound and light system.
Fantastic. And you definitely have done that. I know that you help to manage a lot of different artists there over the years, but I suppose, and I did say this to you the other day, and you were like, no, I'm not. I don't consider myself a manager. You just consider yourself someone who likes to help support people and things like that, which I think is really, really nice.
Well, I would consider myself more an instigator than a manager. I instigate things to happen.
Yeah.
And I want to help people. There is one artist that I've been kind of mentor managing. Her name is Ilo. She's an amazing singer and songwriter, but she's the only person that I've really wanted to help on a long-term basis. And that's partly because we're very creative. We write a lot together.
Yeah.
But it's not my skill set to be a manager. And I just want to create opportunities and to really curate spaces for artists and audiences alike to gain something special and something precious. And as you said, I've had a lot of artists come through the Bedford door and go on to be very successful. James Morrison, Hannah Nutini, James Bay, Amy McDonald, Ed Sheeran, obviously.
Yep.
His first proper record was called Ed Sheeran Live at the Bedfords, still available now. And you see a picture of a very young Ed standing outside the Bedford.
Amazing.
We gave him the space for £100 so he could put his own night on.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible success. So that's what I've been up to.
That's fantastic. And I'm curious now, because I know that you're also a radio presenter, of course, with Radio Soho. And before that, you were with the BBC for a while as well. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how you actually met the production company that produced this film that you have out today. And the film is 36 Husbands, and the production company are Bright Blue Gorilla. Michael,
yes, well, Bright Blue Gorilla, Michael and Robin, they're of course wonderful singer-songwriters, and I met them because they came and played at the Kashmir Club many times when they were in the UK.
Okay, very cool,
and
very cool. Yeah.
So we go back a long way, and really Michael, who writes and directs the movies, called me up about 5 or 6 years ago and said, I'm making a movie. I've got a part in it that I've written for you. Would you like to be in the movie?
Yeah.
And that was called Mr. Rudolpho's Jubilee. So I said yes. I went to Berlin. We made the movie, and I had an amazing time. and it relit my fire for wanting to do more acting and work in film and TV.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, he called me up again. He said, "I've got another movie. I've got a great role for you." I went back to Berlin. It was 36 Husbands, and of course, that's where I met you. And the film is a wonderful, wacky, light-hearted, but very beautifully and crafted movie that weaves a plot around spies, and it's hard to describe because you have to see it. It's a visual feast, is what I would say. All of the actors do an incredible job, and Michael and Robin have been inspirations to me in making my little movie, to see what you can do as an independent movie maker if you put the time, the care, and the love in. And I'm really thrilled that it's now available to a wider audience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's out today on Amazon. You can get it on amazon.co.uk, and it's also on Apple iTunes as well. You can get it on there. And yeah, it's been getting some great reviews out in the States, and it's also got some nice reviews. It's been in Italy, and it's been doing really, really well. So I mean, I'm really happy for them because they are just such nice people, and I think they are exactly the type of vibe we were talking about when we started our show, which is this vibe of just spreading love, spreading good vibrations out to the world, right?
Exactly, precisely.
Well, Tony,
so
it's been so great having you on the show today. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, Dominic. Good luck with everything, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely, and be sure if you want to follow Tony, you can. We'll have all his links and everything that he's doing. We'll have all his links on this video stream. Okay, Tony, I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers, Tony. Bye bye. Tony Moore there joining us in the studio. Well, via phone, I should say. We're going to take a short break, folks. We'll be right back after this short break. Please join us for more art and spirituality.
Relaks Radio. Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com. RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
We're back. The Art and Spirituality Show with your host, myself, Mr. Dominic Anglim. Oh, that was a lovely chat that we had with Mr. Tony Moore. He was joining us via phone. And he was telling us all about his various projects. What an interesting life this man has had. And I think it's quite important to note that he doesn't live his life looking back or looking to the future. He said that he likes to live his life very much in the present moment, taking as much out of each moment as he can. And yeah, so it was, it was good to talk to him about his life growing up in the 60s, nearly the 60s, as he says, and the 70s. Early member of Iron Maiden there in the 70s. We didn't even touch on what he did in the 80s and the 90s. He was a very, very busy individual. One of something that I was going to mention, but we didn't get to mention it, was, of course, that he was a former keyboard player in Cutting Crew, and they had that big hit, "I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight." And yeah, so he very, very eclectic career. He also worked extensively with an Argentinian singer as well in the 90s. And then he, of course, opened up the Kashmir Club in 1997. Now, the Kashmir Club became very well known because it had a lot of famous people who would just drop in and perform there. And that was where he was saying that he met Michael Glover and Robin Rosencrantz, who are Bright Blue Gorilla. Now, Bright Blue Gorilla are an American production company from LA, and they're also musicians. And they quit their LA jobs in 1991, and they sold everything that they had, and they bought one-way tickets to Amsterdam, and they came across to Europe, and they started touring with their music and making music, and they never looked back. Basically, they've been doing that for 30 years. They're really, really interesting. So it's good to make the connection about how Tony knew them through the Kashmir Club, and interesting to know that they played the Kashmir Club in the 90s. Must have been a fantastic time. I'm always impressed by people who give other people a stage to perform on. I've always found that to be quite inspiring when other people give people a stage to perform on. That's why I think open mics are so important. If you're a musician or a poet or a singer or a comedian, and you want to get your stage time, you want to be able to get your voice out there and share your talents, share your worth and stuff like that. And if you want to do things like that, you need a stage. Basically, you need a stage, and a lot of the time it's difficult to get a stage. Now, if I think about go back in time to open mic scene. So the open mic scene, I remember going to New York for the open mic scene in 2012, and they had a system where if you wanted to perform and do your comedy, you had to pay to play. That's the way they had that set up, because there was so much of a demand that they had it in place. If you wanted to do stand up comedy, you had to pay $5 just to get in there. So there you go. That was one setup, and I remember coming to London. I remember coming to London in 2016 and looking to get gigs back then. And I remember it was quite difficult because there's a lot of venues in London. I did manage to get some. I did manage to get a gig, a couple of gigs, which was really cool. And I was able to share my comedy back then. But yeah, I love people who create stages for other people to perform, to give people an opportunity to share whatever it is that they want to share. I just think it's so important. And I think that's probably why the Kashmir Club was so successful, and probably why the Bedford is so successful now. So yeah, so check out TonyMoore.com for more information about Tony. I'm sure Harry is putting links and pictures and all the rest of it in this live stream. So yeah, we're going into another lockdown. We're in another lockdown now. This is another lockdown. How's it going? How's the lockdown going for you? This is I mean, what's that? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This is day 5 of the lockdown. My housemates are on lockdown, and they decided to have a bit of a shindig last night, a bit of a get together. A few they were playing. We were all playing cards, which was fine, and then the cards, there was a few drinks being had, and then that turned into video games, and that turned into more cards, and yeah, I can safely say at 3:30 this morning, I was ready for my laba, ready for my bed, and the party was still going. So I managed to politely ask that it get wound down, and I would say a big thank you to my new housemate who's very kindly wound down his card game at 3:30 this morning. So yeah, that was the beginning of my day. It's been interesting. What about you? How's lockdown going for you? Are you working from home? Are you what have you been up to? Maybe you're thinking, I wanted to go to see a concert, right? Maybe you're missing some live music. We had Tony Moore on the show today. We didn't get to hear any music from him, and he's a fantastic singer. He's got such an amazing voice. It would have been great to hear some music. But hey, this is a talk show. We're all about to talk on this show. So we couldn't have any music. But maybe you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to check out some music online. What's going on in the world of online music? Well, you'll be very happy to hear, listeners. I did a little bit of research and I found out about some live music shows that are going to be online for you to tune into. So, if you're wanting to listen to anything that's happening out in the States, a great website to check out. Now, of course, you probably already heard of this website, but I'm going to tell you anyway, is billboard.com. So it's bill and then board.com. Check out billboard.com. They got loads of information about lots of online events that are happening. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, just to give you a little bit of information, Hazley. Are you guys familiar with Hazley? Hazley? She's an American singer songwriter and activist, and she is hosting a live stream for the release of her poetry book. Her poetry book is called "I Would Leave If I Could." I would leave if I could. Interesting title there. I don't know what that means. I would leave if I could. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I would be tempted to go to this. It's on November 10th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So, Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So you'll need to look that up on Google, folks. I'm not sure what time Eastern Time is over here, but if you look it up on Google, I'm sure it will tell you. So that's on November 10th. That's tomorrow, actually. And then on November 14th, do we have any rock music fans listening today? Any rock music fans? By the way, folks, if you want to give me a call, if you want to send me a text message, the phone is on. You can give me a call. Just seeing now that we did get a missed call. I don't know if that's from today or not. But if you want to give a call or a text message, you can give me a call. The number is 075 824 73473. You can give me a text message. I'd love to hear from you. Find out what you're up to. I was talking to my good friend Ivor yesterday, and he said he might send me a message. Nothing yet from Ivor. We were talking about gardening, actually. I was talking about gardening last week on the show as well, and I got involved in more gardening. I can just say I got involved in more gardening at the weekend. I cut the grass. Yes, I cut the grass. We have quite a long back garden. It's very old. It's definitely overgrown, or at least it was overgrown. There's an old apple tree in it, and it's kind of a work in progress. I've been slowly but surely tidying it and making it nicer, getting rid of just random bits of rubbish that are in it. Like for example, I planted some vegetables at the back of the garden there, in lockdown, and when I was cleaning the soil, I had to plow the soil. So I was plowing the soil, and I must have taken out like so many. I don't know how many it was, but so many pieces of glass, rope, brick, tin. I found a bit of tin in there. I don't know, it was like an old bottle cap or something. But yeah, I took out all this stuff out of the soil, and then what I did was I took some cut off of some fruit and veg, like I took some peppers and some banana skins and onion. Onion's very good for soil. Don't know if you're aware of that. And I took those little cuttings and I put them in the soil and I buried them. And then you see what happens is that actually attracts lots of insects into the soil. So soil that was dead, that was full of glass and brick and rope and tin. There was no insects in there. So what I did was I put the food in the soil, buried it, and then yeah, lo and behold, lots of insects came. It seems like a no-brainer, I know. And then I was able to plant my veg, and my veg did grow. I had very plentiful crop of potatoes. I think I was telling you about this last week. So yeah, so I cut the grass at the weekend. It was a big job, a really big job, but I did it. It took me about an hour. I did the whole lawn with an electric strimmer. It was pretty. I needed to be quite dedicated, I have to say, to do the whole thing. But I did it all the same. I did the whole thing with an electric strimmer, folks. And yeah, it looks amazing now. It looks gorgeous now. I'd love to post you a picture of it actually. Maybe I'll see if I can do that. Or maybe I'll see if I can put a picture in the comment. So yeah, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this short break for more art and spirituality. I'll be talking about music. Today my guest was Tony Moore, and we were talking to him all about his musical career. So after the break, we'll be talking more music, more art, and of course, more spirituality. We'll be right back after this short break. Please join us then.
Relax Radio. Whoa, Relax Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, yeah, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
We're back. The Art and Spirituality Show with myself, Mr. Dominic Anglim. And my guest today was Tony Moore. Tony Moore, what an interesting gentleman. What a distinguished man. He was joining us via phone. Former member of Iron Maiden in the 70s. Former member of Cutting Crew in the 80s. Founder of the Kashmir Club and music promoter at the Bedford. And also an actor, filmmaker. He's just produced his own short film, The Voodoo Vortex, which he'll be releasing himself. And also an actor. He has acted in a film which is out today on Amazon in the UK and also on Apple iTunes, which is called 36 Husbands. And I also have a small role in this film as well. So yeah, if you want to check it out, you can. By Bright Blue Gorilla. They are the production company behind it. Directed by Michael Glover. and produced by Mrs. Robin Rosencrantz. So yeah, you can check that out on Amazon and on Apple as well. So yeah, if you want to give a call in today, guys, you can give me a call as always on the number which is 075 824 73473, or you can send me a text message like people have done in the past. It has happened that people have sent in messages to the show, and then I can we can interact. We can interact. Wouldn't that be amazing? I was just talking about the little bit of gardening I did at the weekend there. You know, it's quite therapeutic being in the garden. I have to say, very very therapeutic. Just spend some time in the garden, uh, just uh, just cutting the grass there with a strimmer. Grass was quite long. It was up to my knees. So it's doing the cutting the grass probably for about good part of an hour, I'd say. I did feel a little bit bad actually cutting the grass because I was thinking about the insects and stuff like that that would be living in the grass, and I was thinking, am I gonna, yeah, are these guys gonna be okay when I cut the grass? But I know that it's good for the lawn. It's good for the lawn. You have to cut away. It's kind of like your hair, you know, when you have long hair, it's good for you to get your hair trimmed because then it grows back stronger. So maybe we can use this as an analogy for life and say, hey, when you have, you need to cut away the old and make way for the new, right? So yeah, that's a little analogy there. So I was talking before the break there about some online music events that are happening. Do we have any rock music fans out there listening today? Any rock music fans? Well, if you are a rock music fan, are you a fan of Metallica by any chance? Yeah, Metallica. What a band, right? I think they were probably most active in the 80s and 90s, but they definitely put out some albums after that as well. What a fantastic band. They have said that they're going to be doing a live concert on November 14th. On November 14th, online live acoustic show. And this is going to be from San Rafael in California. And it's called the Helping Hands Concert and Auction. And it's going to benefit the band's charity, all within my hands. They say 100% of money is going to help someone in need, and that's on at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on nngs.tv. We'll be sure to put a link to that in today's show. Do we have any electronic music fans listening today? Any electronic music fans? Are you a fan of Major Lazer by any chance? Major Lazer? You might be wondering who are Major Lazer? Well, Major Lazer, of course, they are. It's actually it's kind of a collaboration of a few different people. Major Lazer will revive their world tour with a virtual reality performance on Osculus, Osculus venues platform, put on with the help of virtual events production company Supershare, using its newest technology. There we go. Now, just to give you a little bit of information about Major Lazer, it's a trio. They're made up of Diplo, uh, Fire Walshy, and 8 drums. Well, I practiced saying this beforehand, can't you? Diplo, Fire Walshy, and 8 drums. This is who Major Lazer are. Check out Major Lazer. They are fantastic. Probably one of my favorite songs of theirs is, I think it's called Get Free. It's a brilliant song. So they're going to be doing a show on November 18th, and they're recently released. They recently released their fourth studio album. It's called Music is the Weapon. Music is the Weapon. Interesting title there. So that's on at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on November 18th. So be sure to check out billboard.com, and you can find out some more events that are happening in the States. But of course, we're not in the States. We're in London. We're in London town. So of course, you're going to be saying to yourself, tell me about some events that are happening in the UK, Dominic. Well, here we go. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that right now. If you want to check out what's happening in the UK, go to eventbrite.co.uk. They've got some great things on there as well. For example, you've got the Beat for Beat Music Festival. This is happening on November 14th, and it's in aid of John Hopkins Children's Center. Okay, they say every beat of music saves an innocent heartbeat at risk. Nice, isn't it? Let me read that for you again. Every beat of music saves an innocent heartbeat at risk. Nice. Just a nice thought. That's called Beat for Beat Music Festival. It's on November 14th, and it's in aid of John Hopkins Children's Centre. So check that out. That's on eventbrite.co.uk. Okay. And then also on November 19th, you've got something else happening, and this is The Sound of Music Across the Lifespan. The Sound of Music Across the Lifespan. This is a virtual sing along. Are you a singer? Do you enjoy singing? Maybe you want to interact with a singing event. This is the event for you. This is going to be a virtual sing along, and it's taking place online November 19th, and it's hosted by a lady by the name of Heather MacLeod. Heather MacLeod. It's MacLead. Heather MacLeod. Don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but it's the virtual sing song at the Being Human Festival. The Being Human Festival. So check that out. That's on November 19th, and you can find more information about different events that are taking place online over the next month on eventbrite.co.uk. We'll be sure to put some links into this live stream, into today's live stream as well. So yeah, it's been a great show today. I think now that we're talking music, I want to talk about some albums that have come out this year, which I've been really impressed with, and they haven't really perhaps gotten enough attention. One album which I want to talk about is by a good friend of mine, Mr. Kerry James. He's just released his seventh studio album, and it's called Red Mist. It's called Red Mist, and I would say, folks, if you're gonna listen to an unheard of indie blues folk singer 2020, check out Kerry James Music. You can go to Kerry James Music Bandcamp, and you can actually download his album there for a fee. It's very very good. I want to go through some of the songs on it and talk about them a little bit. One single which he released was Another Chance. Brilliant song. Has yet all of the songs, they don't have videos yet. That is something that will probably change in time, I'm sure. Another Chance has got a real 70s feel to it. It reminds me of something from a film from the 70s or the 80s. Remember those old films? Remember those old, like, kind of family videos that you would see from the 80s, and you'd have that kind of, that old video camera look? Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. It kind of reminds me of, do you remember the Wonder Years? Do you remember the Wonder Years? And you had that at the beginning, you had that kind of old family footage on the kind of old camera. Yeah, Another Chance. It has that kind of feel to it. Just kind of has a kind of a movie feel to it almost. And that's Another Chance. That was one of his singles from Red Mist. Another song which he released was a song called Still Got You. And this song has got a real nice kind of vibe to it. It reminds me of an Aerosmith song. Yeah, it really reminds me of an Aerosmith song for some reason. Kind of a mixture between Aerosmith and Bon Jovi. Do you remember that song Always by Bon Jovi? It reminds me of a mixture between Bon Jovi Always and Aerosmith. What Aerosmith song is it? I don't know. It's that song I Need You. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's just each one of the songs on this album, you listen to it and you go, "Oh yeah, this song has a real feel of, I think it has a real familiarity vibe to it." So if you're looking for some music which has just nice comforting sound, a nice familiar feel to it, definitely check out Kerry James Red Mist. You will be very, very happy you did. Another song on the album, which is very, very good, is called Dreams on Hold. Dreams on Hold. And I love this song. It's probably my favorite song on the album because it's talking all about artists and people who are pursuing the arts as a lifestyle, and they're having to work in other jobs because being an artist is difficult, right? That's something that a lot of people, they say they know, but do they really know? When you're an artist, it's a struggle. It's life is hard. You got to work in plenty of other jobs that are not necessarily to do with what it is that you want to do. Like, for example, Kerry, who I know because we used to work together. We still work together, as bar staff, at music events. And we were both bar staff at a music event, and then we got talking, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm actually a musician," and I said, "Oh really? I'm actually an actor," and that was a great conversation because we were just two artists there, working as bar staff at this music event, and that's what that song is about. It's called "Dreams on Hold," and it's about all these different people that Kerry has met in his life that are pursuing their dream. They're going after their dream. They're looking to make art their life, but they have other commitments. They have family, they have bills to pay, and so they're having to work in these other jobs. And yeah, we're going to take a short break, folks. But I put the question out to you: how many people out there are working in jobs right now that they don't necessarily love, but they've got to do it because they got to pay the rent, they got to pay the bills, they got to pay the mortgage. You got to feed your family, all the rest of it. So yeah, it's kind of it's a very romantic song. It's also a little bit sad, but it's got a message of hope. It has a message of hope, and I think that is one of the reasons why I love the album so much, because overall the whole album has a real feeling of hope and promise of a better day, promise of a happier, nicer day, which is something that I think we all want, right? Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this short break for more art and spirituality. Please join us then.
Relax Radio. Whoa, Relax Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
We're back, the Art and Spirituality Show. And my guest today was Mr. Tony Moore former member of Iron Maiden, former member of Cutting Crew from the 80s, and also a musician, singer, songwriter, a filmmaker, and also an actor. He has a new film out today called 36 Husbands, which is out on Amazon Prime and on Apple TV. Be sure to check that out. Yes, and before the break, we were talking all about music because I wanted to have a musical themed show today. Because of hey, when you interview someone who's a musician, it's nice to have a theme of music. I feel I was talking about my favorite albums of 2020 so far, and one of them I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Kerry James, who, believe it or not, was my first guest on my first show that I did on Relaks Radio, which was on wow, would have been October 5th. It seems like a lifetime ago. It really does. It seems like such a long time ago, but it was only over a month ago. If you want to give a call in today or give me a text message, you can reach me on 075 824 73473. And you can also give a comment on our live stream, and I'll be sure to get back to you after the show is over. So that's Red Mist by Kerry James. Brilliant album. Very, very good album. It's his seventh album as well. So be sure to check out him. He's on Bandcamp. You can check him out, Kerry James Music on Bandcamp if you want to get any of his songs. Another musician that I want to talk about, who is also a friend of mine, who I know from Madrid, from when I lived in Madrid, and he is an American singer-songwriter, and he's actually put out two albums. His second album just came out this year, and it's called The Last Humans Left, and that is by a singer-songwriter from Michigan. His name is Mr. David Ernsberger. David Ernsberger. Yeah, great name, and you can check him out on Bandcamp as well. His first album, Creaky Attic, was released in 2017, and this album has got some songs on it again that when you hear them, they have this sense of familiarity to them, like a kind of a timeless feel. You listen to some of the songs on this album, and it just takes you away. It takes you somewhere. What is it about music? When we listen to it, it has magic, this magic effect over us. I think it's because the people that created the music, when they were creating it, they were connected with the alpha wavelength. They weren't on the beta. They had disconnected from the beta and they were connected with the alpha. They were inspired. They were in spirit. And I think there's a spirit in music which transforms us and takes us on a little journey. There's a fantastic TED talk by a classical music teacher. Now, I should know his name, but of course I don't. But we'll be sure to put a link to it after this video stream. It's a great TED talk. He's talking about the power of music. He gives us a little instruction about somebody playing a piano. And he basically says, you know, when you listen to a piece of classical music, you just close your eyes and the music takes you on a journey. It takes you somewhere. It has this magic over you, and it can bring you on this journey. It can bring you somewhere. I guess it brings you kind of out of your head. Maybe it helps you to disconnect from the beta wavelengths, gets you connecting with the alpha wavelengths, and gets you more into the creative mindset. More into a kind of yeah, kind of a more inspired mindset, I think. When you listen to a really good song and you're just like, yeah, that music has inspired me. You listen to some music that you put on and you're like, this music is fantastic. It's just got to just get up and go about it. And you just want to go do something. So yeah, I think it's very, very, very possible that that's the magic of music. It can take you on these journeys, and as Tony Moore was saying, if you're spreading love, if you've got the message of love, being loving, and putting love vibes out there, When people listen to your music, they're going to get that message from it. And I think that's really something which is very evident when you listen to Kerry James's album Red Mist. It has that feeling, has this vibe of hope, of dreaming, of belief in yourself, to pursue the arts and to pursue something that you're passionate about, something that you love. Now, David Ernsberger in Creaky Attic, he has a song. It's the first song on the album, and it's called Minnesota Moon. Minnesota Moon. And yeah, this song, you gotta listen to this song. It's like a journey. It's like you go on a journey. It's a story. It's a story of a couple. They get married and they have a child, and whatever happens over the course of their life together, the wife, she dies. Yeah, she dies in the song, and it's kind of the story is it's like you're listening to a whole life while you listen to this one song. It's called Minnesota Moon, and I remember hearing David playing this song at open mics years ago. Years before he released it in an album, and I always thought it was a cover. And I always thought it was a cover. I didn't realize it was his song because it's that good. It really is that good. So check it out. He's got a band camp. You can check it out. Another notable songs on Creaky Attic. There's a couple of other songs that stand out to me. One of them is called Tree, and it's a song about being a tree, which is kind of cool, right? Trees are really amazing things, aren't they? Have you ever hugged a tree? But you didn't know I was going to say that. I didn't know I was going to say it either. Have you ever hugged a tree? I've hugged a few trees before. I remember when I was growing up, there was this big movement of people protesting, and trees were going to cut down, and they had chained themselves to some trees. I remember being a child and not really understanding why someone would be so protective of 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 a plant. Essentially, I didn't really understand it, but I think that there's a spirit, there's an energy in trees, isn't there? I mean, if you think about it on a scientific level, like literally, they take in our carbon monoxide and they release oxygen. So they're giving us life. And it's kind of godlike in a way, these trees. Um, I just mean that in that they literally give us air to breathe. So trees are pretty amazing. Trees are pretty amazing. And yeah, so if you've ever hugged a tree, I think you'll know. And the funny thing about trees is they just found out recently that trees are actually communicating with each other via these electrical currents that they're sending via their roots. So yeah, this is just I just read about this recently, but if there's like something happening, trees will actually talk to each other via their roots, and it's a type of communication. And scientists are only learning about this now, by the way. So this song is called Tree. It's really really good. Definitely recommend it. It's on Creaky Attic, and it'll definitely take you places. It will definitely take you places. And interestingly, I planted a an acorn. I planted four acorns about a month ago just in a flower pot, just in a pot of soil that I had in my bedroom. And planted four of them, they all started growing, right? But in the last kind of 2 weeks or so, one of them started growing really well. Like this thing is shot up. And now I actually have six leaves. It's a small, very young oak tree that I have growing in my bedroom. I have to say this thing it's amazing how much inspiration that I'm getting from this tree. Every day I see it, I look at it and I tell the tree that I love it, and I kiss the leaves. Okay, I give the leaves a kiss and I say I love you to the oak tree. And I also say I love you to the other acorns, which are also growing. They're not growing as fast as the main one, but I do tell the other acorns that I love them as well, which is kind of it's a little bit experimental. I remember reading a while ago about an experiment that they did with grains of rice. Did you guys hear about this? They had some grains of rice, and on one bottle they wrote love, and on another bottle they wrote hate. And the one that had the hate on it, the grain of rice turned black, just like totally like rotted, and but the one that had love written on it, that was totally fine. Yeah, the rice experiment. I'll definitely put a link to that. It's from a book called Love Thyself. The message in water. I think that's the name of the book. It's by Japanese scientist. So I'll be sure to put a link to that in today's stream. And yeah, so yeah, I just was like, okay, I'm gonna do this experiment with my four acorns by telling the acorns that I love them. And I have to say that they're really responding. They're really growing so well. One of them in particular now is, how tall is it? I mean, it's probably like, what is that? It's probably like, I don't know, maybe like 40 centimeters tall. It's quite big, pretty quite big. But yeah, maybe I'll put a picture that maybe I'll put a picture to that as well in today's. I'm gonna put a picture of my lawn and a picture of this oak tree that I have growing in my room. Folks, we're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Please join us then for more art and spirituality.
Relax Radio. Whoa, Relax Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, yeah, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
We're back. The Art and Spirituality Show with myself, Dominic Anglim. Thanks very much for joining us today. Hope you're enjoying the show today. It's been very eclectic mix, I think. Today we had our guest Tony Moore on the show today, and he was talking all about his philosophy of life, living in the present moment. He was talking about his film that he's just produced, which is called The Voodoo Vortex, which will be available, I'm sure, through his socials. You can follow him on his website, tonymore.com. And he was also talking about a film that he has out today on Amazon Prime and on Apple iTunes, which is 36 Husbands, which is a family-friendly comedy. And you can check that out if you like. And before the break, I was talking all about music, some inspiration that I got from an album which I listened to, which was the first album of a good friend of mine, David Ernsberger first album that he put out in 2017, which is called Creaky Attic, and it's available on his Bandcamp. You can check that out. David Ernsberger Bandcamp. You can check him out on there. And yeah, he's got on that first album, I would say, basically three notable songs, which stood out for me anyway. The first is Minnesota Moon. The second is a song called Tree. And then the third song is a song called Waves. And as you know, listeners, I just love talking about waves because I believe that we're all on this particular journey through life, and we're all on different wavelengths, or we're all on the same wavelengths. This idea of disconnecting from the beta wavelengths and connecting to the alpha wavelengths. And yeah, I love the analogy of a wave, making a wave. Tony was talking about making a wave of love. How can you spread the love? How can you get the love message out to the universe? If you're in an ocean and you start spreading the message of love and kindness and compassion out into an ocean, your small ripple will start to get bigger and bigger, and then your ripple will become bigger until it becomes a wave. And then that wave will go out into the ocean. That is the world. So yeah, that's a great song. Great song called Waves. Check that out. Check out Creaky Attic. His albums that's just come out this year is called The Last Humans Left, and it's a very good album. It's, I would say, very different to Creaky Attic. Creaky Attic is quite folky, and quite the songs are quite emotional, and there's some sad ones in there as well. Like Minnesota Moon is quite a sad song. I mean, it'll definitely take you places. Tree is kind of a happy, funny song, and Waves is quite a kind of emotional, soft, nice song. Now, The Last Humans Left, which came out earlier this year, is a much more upbeat album. The first song is called the first single that he put out was called Hangman, and it's much more upbeat. And a lot of the songs on this album are much more upbeat, much more kind of bluegrass sound, I would say. And do we have any bluegrass fans of music out there? By the way, if you want to give a message in today, you can get me on 078 If you want to send a text message in, you can also comment on our live stream. I believe we're going live stream on Facebook Live, on YouTube, Twitch, and a bunch of other platforms as well, which I don't know the name of, but they're there. They're all there. We're going on StreamYard as well, I believe. So you can follow the links on there. So some other notable songs on this album that you should check out by David Ernsberger. Another one is called Broadway. So that's a great song as well. Has a very kind of a feel of kind of New York. Kind of has this feel of like New York in the 20s or the 30s. Kind of going out, going to a show, going to a theater. And isn't it amazing how you can listen to a bit of music and it can take you somewhere? I always find that so inspiring. And you can listen to a song and it can just take you somewhere. Yeah. So another song on that album is called Dreaming. So check it out. It's called The Last Humans Left by David Ernsberger. Got me thinking today, interviewing Tony on the show. It got me thinking there was so many great albums that came out in the 70s, wasn't there? So many great albums that came out in the 70s. And it got me thinking, what would be like your top five albums of the 70s? What would be your top five albums of the 70s? And I was doing a bit of I was just looking it up to find out kind of what albums did come out in the 70s. Someone's just off the top of my head. I say that, but obviously I've already written them down here. It's not really off the top of my head, but some albums off the top of my head, which I'm thinking of in the moment, are The Clash, London's Calling. That came out in the 70s, I believe. Jimi Hendrix, he definitely put out some albums in the 70s. Hunky Dory, I believe, that was in the 70s. Mr. David Bowie, of course, the late great Mr. David Bowie. Blondie, they definitely had an album out in the 70s. Some of my favorite ones, which I did make a note of from earlier, were, of course, Fleetwood Mac. Rumors. Rumors came out in the 70s. That what an album! Whoa, what an album that was! How good was that album? It had the Chain on it. It had Go Your Own Way. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Leonard Cohen as well. Leonard Cohen had an album out in the 70s. Songs of Love and Hate came out in the early 70s, I believe, and that had one of my favorite all-time songs on it, which is "Famous Blue Raincoat." Famous Blue Raincoat. Anyone familiar with that song? It is a classic. So, so good. It also had Joan of Arc on it, which is also a brilliant song. Another album that came out in the 70s would be The Doors. Yeah, LA Woman. That came out in the 70s. Oh, I mean, there was just the music in the 70s was so good, wasn't it? It was just so, so good. So that would be my top albums of the 70s. What about the 80s? Now, the 80s, of course, 80s music, I think, is going to go down in history as one of the best decades for music. You think about it, you know, the likes of The Cure, The Smiths, Susie and the Banshees, Cutting Crew, of course. We had Tony Moore today from Cutting Crew. They had that brilliant song, I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. What a classic. What an absolute classic. New Order, before that, Joy Division. Oh my God, there was just so many good artists of the 80s. Adamant. Who's your favorite artist to come out of the 80s? Love to hear from you. Love to know who your favorite artist was coming out of the 80s. And then going into the 90s. The 90s. Whoa. Let's talk about the 90s. The 90s, we had Nirvana. We had Pearl Jam. Oh, I didn't mention Metallica. We had Metallica in the 80s. They were also huge, huge band to come out of the 80s. So 90s, we had Nirvana, Pearl Jam, The Frames. You want to talk about The Frames? Irish bands, The Frames, so big in Ireland. And in recent years, getting more and more big around the world. Glenn Hansard, there, the lead singer of The Frames, probably a lot more well known now on the back of Once, which was the film that came out, which was Once, which he did all the music for. A lot of the original songs from Once were written by Glenn Hansard and were featured on some of the early Frames albums. But then, of course, the Swell season was born out of that, and they toured a lot. And then, of course, they made Once into a Broadway show as well, didn't they? So that's come out there as well on the back of that. I mean, the 90s, I think, was, I mean, that I was born in the 80s and then, yeah, grew up in the 90s. So I feel like I was really, really in touch with music in the 90s more so because I was, teenager in the 90s. Nirvana, Pearl Jam were big ones. Soundgarden was another one. The late great Chris Cornell. Who else? Yeah, we had the whole Brit pop scene as well, like Oasis, Blur. I was more of a Blur fan than an Oasis fan in the 90s, but of course Oasis were brilliant as well. No one can say any different about that. You had Ocean Color Scene. Oh, brilliant, brilliant stuff. The Fugees. I remember when the Fugees came out, and I can't let the 90s go by without mentioning the amazing and brilliant group, which of course are the Prodigy. How can we not talk about the Prodigy when we're talking about the 90s? Oh yeah, they were a game changer. They were a total game changer. I remember being in school in the 90s and um yeah, there was a really big divide, there's this really big divide between what in Ireland we would call rockers and ravers. And it's funny because like, when you think back to like the 70s, you had the whole rockers and if you think about Quadrophenia, you had the whole rockers and uh, the what the word is escaping me. Not. The word is escaping me. But you know what I mean. You always have these divides. I feel with younger people and music and stuff like that. And then one band comes along and they just bring them all together. And I think the Prodigy were that band in the 90s. They brought together the whole scenes of the rockers and the ravers. They brought them together under one umbrella, and that was, I think, the magic of the Prodigy and the magic of music, that it just brings people together. That's what music does. It just brings people together. in unity, in love, and in sharing something which is higher than ourselves, something spiritual, something magical. Yeah. So I will leave you on that lovely, lovely note of unity, of love, of compassion. I hope you're being kind to yourself in lockdown. I hope you're practicing love and practicing kindness and compassion to yourself and for others as well. I'm Dominic Anglim. This has been the Art and Spirituality Show. Big thank you to my guest today, Tony Moore. Thanks for joining me. And we're back again on Wednesday. Going to be back on Wednesday where I'm interviewing British comedian and actress and singer Gabby Killick. She's going to be joining me via phone. Very excited for that. So if you want to listen to that show, we'll be back on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Please join us then for more art and spirituality. Thanks so much.
Relax Radio. Oh, Relax Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax